Where you are allowed to legally live is very important to your happiness and freedom. If you want to be a citizen of the world, you need to be able to travel to other countries and have guaranteed access within reason, of course. You can do this by either being a citizen there, we'll tackle that in another video, or by being a legal resident. Legal residency is a core concept of setting up bases across the world, and if you want more information about this topic, check out the video I made a while ago, link in the description. Your residence base is planted in a country where you can legally live but are not a citizen of. You have full residency instead, which endows you with plenty of benefits. Being a resident is not the same as being a citizen. As a citizen, you'd have a passport of a certain country, and you'd need to adhere to certain societal obligations, such as voting, paying taxes, and so forth. Residence simply means you are allowed to reside somewhere legally and officially. You do not need to get a visa. You can enter and leave the country as much as you like. This often gives you similar rights as citizens, if not more, in certain cases, but without many of the downsides. For example, as a resident and not a citizen in some countries, you are exempt from taxes on your international income, provided you do not spend all your time there. Legal citizens have many obligations and restrictions that residents do not have. For example, if you are a citizen, you might be obligated to vote in that country, or you might have to follow all kinds of rules that residents can skirt. For this reason, you want to live in a country where you are a resident but not a citizen. Attain citizenship elsewhere, but do not live there. Keep in mind that there's often a theoretical difference between temporary residence and permanent residence. Temporary residence can be viewed as a long-term visa, and as such doesn't always confer the full advantages of permanent residence. It also needs to be renewed every so often, and is in many cases a prerequisite for permanent residence. Regarding the latter, the word permanent unfortunately does not actually mean permanent, as you'll still need to renew your residence every 3, 5, 10 years or so. Yes, this is a bit confusing, but you can see permanent residence more as full residence, which isn't valid indefinitely. As a citizen, you'd have to renew your passport every 5 or 10 years as well, right? The same principle applies here. Before we'll talk about how to get permanent residence in other countries, there's something you can do for me. On this channel, I talk about the impending collapse of the Western world, how you can save yourself, and where you can move to. If you like this kind of content and you want to get more of it for free, consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and leaving a comment below. It really helps and would be greatly appreciated. Okay, onwards with the video. How to get permanent residency. Attaining residence in another country is one of the first things you should get sorted upon embarking on your quest to set up bases. And there are plenty of methods to get it, depending on where you go. The following list isn't complete by any means, but it does cover the most prevalent options. The most common way to become a legal and permanent resident is to simply have lived in that country for a specific period of time. That means that if you resided in a nation for at least a couple of years on a temporary permit or some sort of visa or temporary residence, you can apply for permanent residence. This varies between 1 and 25 years, with between 3 and 10 years being the most common case. The next option is to bring some sort of economic gain to the country through investment, real estate, setting up a company, buying local stocks, and so on. Employment at a native company, deposit money in a local bank, or have a reliable source of income, such as a pension, which is deemed reliable by other governments, but as you should be aware of by now, it is anything but. If you have a familial bond to a citizen of that country, very often this will also provide you with the option to get residence. This could be through marriage, children, or being related to someone with that nationality. For example, if one of your parents is a resident or citizen there. And finally, there are various random ways certain countries can grant you residence, such as being an international talent, a person of interest, or someone with recognized achievements. This is a very easy option if you're a celebrity, high caliber athlete or scientist, or just a very rich person. For example, Edward Snowden was granted permanent residency in Russia. Moving on, let's see where you can get permanent residence. In most of the countries we talk about on this channel, you can get residency through one way or the other, although there are some exceptions, of course. Some have very tight requirements, or the process takes at least 10 to 25 years, and some are just very undesirable to become a resident of. From my point of view, if you want to get residency somewhere relatively fast and easy, these are the countries I would suggest. Armenia. You can get permanent residency up to 5 years if you have a business here. This is extendable by another 5 years. Ecuador. Permanent residency is possible if you had a temporary residence visa for at least 21 months, or if you are related to a citizen or someone with a temporary residence. However, there's a catch. You aren't allowed to be absent from Ecuador for more than 180 days per year for each of the first 2 years. Colombia. To get residence, you need to get and keep a migrant visa for 5 years or invest 650 times the minimum monthly wage in Colombia. Dubai. Residence is possible for 1 to 10 years if you are employed by a company, invest in a business, or buy property. Golden visa of 10 years is possible for investors, although you need to invest nearly $3 million. If you want one for 5 years, it's only half the cost. Entrepreneurs with a project worth of $150,000 can get a multiple entry visa for 6 months, which is renewable. There are many options here, but most will cost money. Paraguay permanent residence permit is pretty easy and straightforward to get. It's one of the easiest permanent residencies in the world. You only need to visit once every 3 years to maintain your status. You can also get it through investment in the country. Uruguay. Getting residency is pretty easy to get, but you need to prove an income of at least $1,500 per month. Malaysia. Getting residency in Malaysia is probably the easiest one in Southeast Asia, either through employment or investment, or via a familial connection. Belize. You do not need to reside there on a permanent basis to get permanent residency. You can already get it after living there for 1 year, but you do need to apply for a work permit first. You can buy that one for about $1,000. You just need to undertake a health test, which is pretty easy. Another option is being a qualified retired person, which means you need to have an income of $2,000 per month, which goes into a Belizean bank. Fiji. It's possible to get permanent residency if you have family there or enough proof of funds through income pathway. You can get a 7-year investor permit if you've deposited a minimum of roughly $110,000 into the local economy with several other requirements. A 3-year investor permit is another option when you engage in a business project worth around $25,000. Investing in real estate is a valid option. Ghana. You can get a residency permit here for a period of 4 to 8 years when you either work there or prove you've got a steady income. Once you've been there for 5 years, you can go for an indefinite residence permit. Sounds good, but of course there's a lot of paperwork, hassle, and goodwill from government bureaucrats involved. In many of these countries, it's relatively cheap, fast, and or easy to attain residency. In addition, in some cases, having residency opens the door to actual citizenship, which you should also get somewhere. Please note that these recommendations are in general and in theory. I cannot accurately predict your situation and how this would affect your chances of getting residency at any of the aforementioned nations. Depending on who you are, it could either be very easy and very fast, or very slow or even impossible to get residency even in these countries. For this reason, I would advise that you never rely on a single country to get residency in. In addition, getting residency in two very similar or neighboring countries would be okay, but in my opinion, this is a bit of a waste of your time and potentially problematic. For example, don't get residency in Colombia and Ecuador and Paraguay because they're all close together, and having residency in one Mercosur nation allows you entry into the others anyway. And if something goes wrong in Latin America, you'd be fucked regardless which country you'd live in. It's better to spread your residencies across the world. Have one in Latin America, one in Asia, and one in the middle, for example, in Dubai or Armenia. That way, no matter where in the world things go wrong, you always have a safer region to go to. The whole point of putting bases across the world is abundance and safety, so get residency in differing countries. Get the ball rolling, diversify your life, and ensure you will thrive in the decades ahead. There we go. Hope you got something out of this video. I'm curious to hear about your thoughts. Do you already have multiple residencies spread across the world? Or do you think I'm a paranoid weirdo and that nothing bad will ever happen to your single country? Let me know in the comments below. If you want to know more about these topics, check out my website, escapingthewest.net, or consider my book up on Amazon, link in the description. See you in the next video.